isolated by his rivals on the Council of Regents.
So far, FX's Shogun has intricately woven a story around the mind-boggling power play within feudal Japan, focusing on the Council of Regents' rivalry to gain sole control over the country. Through its 10-episode run, the series has meticulously depicted the historical hierarchy and ranking system within 17th century Japan. Although the show's concept of a feudal landscape, governed by daimyo lords and their steadfast samurai armies, parallels Game of Thrones, it's more rooted in reality than GOT's fantasy-ridden world of magic and dragons. The sheer amount of politics and the portrayal of power dynamics within the series will leave you scratching your head. Even if John Blackthorne is at the center of this mess, we simply cannot ignore the main daimyos from the Council of Regents who are pulling the ultimate strings in Shogun. So without wasting another moment, let's discuss every member in Shogun's Council of Regents. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who are the Council of Regents in Shogun? The Council of Regents in FX's Shogun miniseries draws its inspiration from Toyotomi Hideyoshi's Council of Five Elders, appointed before his passing. These regents were powerful feudal lords or daimyos, tasked to take control of administrative rule of the land, until the heir came of age. In the show, we saw the Taiko had established a council of 5 regents, each of whom would embody the role of a kanpaku divided into 5 parts, while holding a share of equal title and power. After the Taiko's son, Yaechiyo, comes of age, the council would be dissolved and the power would be passed on to the heir. The power play of Shogun mostly revolved around these regents, who were demanded to act in the best interest of the heir, but mostly prioritized increasing their hold on the council. The Taiko had established Yoshi Toranaga, Ishido Kazunari, Kiama Ukon Sanaga, Sugiyama, and Ono Harunobu as regents to manage his administration after his death. But over time, after the other 4 regents turned on Lord Yoshi Toranaga and forced him to resign from the council, naturally many other events converged, leading to the recruitment of Lord Ito and Sayaki Nobutatsu as council regents. But how did it get to that? Well, let's find out, starting strong with Yoshi Toranaga. Every strategy and battle in Shogun begins with Yoshi Toranaga taking the center stage as the protagonist and the powerful lord of the expansive Kanto region in feudal Japan. Toranaga's character was inspired by the real-life shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu, whose clan ruled Japan from the 17th to the 19th century. This show is about his rise to power as the shogun of Japan, ushering the country away from its warring nature to an era of peace. At first, the Taiko had insisted on Toranaga to rule as the sole regent until his son came of age, but Toranaga wasn't Japan's head of foreign relations, and knew the consequences of this decision, even though becoming Japan's one true ruler was his agenda all along. So he declined the Taiko's offer by discerning that the other competing lords would grow jealous of the Taiko favoring him, and would unite against him later to ensure his downfall. The Taiko recognized Toranaga's foresight, and then went on to form a council of regents, comprising the 5 lords, ensuring a stable transition of power upon his passing. But shortly after the Taiko's demise, Toranaga went on a strategic campaign, subtly consolidating his power without any direct confrontation. He expanded his influence in Kanto by tactfully accepting 6 marriage proposals from neighboring fiefdoms, and effectively enlarging his domain. Of course, this came to the attention of the other regions, who called him out for trying to act against the heir's benefit by fraternizing with the Taiko's enemies. But before they could impeach and execute him, Toranaga had already escaped Osaka and left his general to send word to the council about his resignation. After reaching Ajiro, he began preparing for war, strategically structuring his army, while not letting anyone have a whiff of what his true intentions really were. Even after being betrayed by his brother, Sayaki, and receiving his order of execution from Ishido, Toranaga strategically pretended to surrender. During this period, his son Nagakado's death allowed him the necessary time needed to get his final acts in order. Meanwhile, Toranaga made his enemies believe that he had given up, and was now waiting for his death. He gave them the satisfaction of their doubts by sending his most fierce allies, General Hiromatsu and Mariko, to their death. But this sacrifice acted as the ultimate catalyst for the entire council to turn against Ishido, and the protection of the heir's banner was seized from him. After securing his victory against Ishido in the Battle of Sekigahara, Toranaga's ascension into becoming Japan's shogun came to fruition, allowing us to understand that this had been his plan all along. Ishido Kazunari. Ishido Kazunari's character was inspired by the real-life daimyo Ishida Mitsunari, who was the sole enemy of Tokugawa Ieyasu. although he did not hail from a high clan like Ieyasu's Minowara lineage. Ishido was a hardcore loyalist to the Toyotomi regime, and supported the Taiko's interest in unifying Japan and leading military campaigns against Korea in the late 1500s. Ishido Kazunari is Shogun's main villain, and poses the most significant threat to Toranaga's rise in power. Ishido has rallied the council against him since the very beginning, and was seen to have massive influence over the other three regents. Ishido has manipulated the council against him all along, and pushed them to vote Toranaga out. After Toranaga escaped Osaka, before his impeachment and execution, Ishido had indirectly taken all the other three council members as hostages inside the castle. He also had the support of Lady Ochiba, the heir's mother, who had been pulling the strings from behind. Later, to swiftly move forward with Toranaga's impeachment, Ishido had appointed Lord Ito as the 5th regent to replace Toranaga. But when one of the regents had voted against this decision, Ishido had his entire clan murdered to set an example for the rest. Eventually, he got engaged with Ochiba to consolidate his power, and recruited Lord Ito and Lord Sayaki Nobutatsu to fill the council's 2 empty seats. Although Ishido had claimed to always act in the heir's best interests, he likely had plans to seize power for himself. Sadly, Toranaga was always 10 steps ahead of him, and allowed Ishido to believe he had won the battle before it even began. When Mariko died a violent death after being cornered by the shinobi Ishido had hired, the council and Lady Ochiba had turned against him in secret, but he was not aware of this until he brought his forces to war against Toranaga and Sekigahara. It was then that he discovered that Lady Ochiba had called off the heir's support, leading the other regents to side with Toranaga and defeat him. Kiama Ukon Sanaga. Although Kiama was not as powerful as Toranaga or Ishido, he still commanded equal influence over the council through his links with the Portuguese. His character draws inspiration from Konishi Yukinaga, a historical Christian feudal lord who was a loyal ally of Toyotomi Hideyoshi until his passing. Konishi Yukinaga was known for his close friendship with Ishida Mitsunari, and provided military support to him during the Battle of Sekigahara. Like Ishida, he hated Tokugawa Ieyasu for his conventional trade policies, which hindered the spread of Christianity. Kiama was seen to share the same sentiment in the series against Toranaga, and was often seen in a vibrant red attire, as the prominent Christian member of the council. But he never really cared much about his faith, and swayed more toward the path that yielded him more money and power. Because he was one of the first daimyos to trade with the Portuguese, converting to Christianity was an essential need for him in order to further his relationship with them. These Catholics hated John Blackthorne after he arrived in Japan, and feared that he would disclose their trade secrets to the Japanese lords. So the church influenced Kiama to plot for his death. When John managed to evade his execution under Toranaga's protection, Kiama tried to have him assassinated by sending an assault on Toranaga's group in the forest, while the lord was trying to escape Osaka. Kiama's forces strategically deployed flaming arrows before retreating to launching a harbor attack on Toranaga. Despite his efforts, Kiama failed to prevent Toranaga's escape from Osaka or kill Blackthorne. After this, Kiama, along with other members of the council, were taken hostage by Ishido under the pretense of protection, and was forced to vote in Ishido's favor from time to time. Later, after Mariko threatened to commit seppuku when Ishido forbade her to leave Osaka with Toranaga's newborn son, Kiama was seen to be moved by her stance and agreed to assist her in the ritual as her second, given their shared Christian beliefs. Although he was not happy with Ishido's decisions at the end, he had no choice but to play a neutral ground till Mariko's violent death gave him the obvious reason to turn against Ishido and his tyranny. Ono Harunobu. In the show, Ono Harunobu was shown to be a fierce warrior until he was afflicted by leprosy, which caused the obvious deformities on his face and led him to embrace Christianity. He, along with fellow Christian Lord Kiama Ukon Saranaga, co-owns a portion of the western region of Japan. Although Lord Ono conceals his disfigured face behind veils during council meetings due to his condition, he remains active in expressing his views, notably supporting Kiama's proposal for Blackthorne's execution in episode 2. Ono did not have much to contribute in Shogun's power play, and has mostly kept to himself, supporting Kiama's stand within the council. He was also moved by Mariko's defiance against Ishido's tyranny, and was still helpless, given that Ono was taken hostage by him. His character is based on the historical figure Otani Yoshitsugu, who, like his fictional counterpart, suffered from leprosy and had a close friendship with Ishida Mitsunari. Yoshitsugu was a devout follower of Hideyoshi, earning him the nickname Whiteface in Japan. Despite his efforts to dissuade Mitsunari, Yoshitsugu supported him at the Battle of Sekigahara, and well, we already know how that ended for him. Sugiyama. In Shogun, Lord Sugiyama is a feudal lord who governs the central region of Japan, inheriting his position from one of the wealthiest samurai families in the country. As a member of the Council of Regents, Sugiyama aligns himself with Ishido Kazunari and supports his endeavors to undermine Yoshi Toranaga's authority, much like Kiama Ukon Sanaga and Ono Harunobu. The character of Sugiyama in Shogun is inspired by the historical figure Maeda Toshie, who was a respected general and an elder member of the Council of Five Elders. Maeda Toshie passed away in 1598 and was known for his neutral stance compared to the other feudal lords, just like how Sugiyama kept mostly quiet until he had something valuable to add. After Toranaga stepped down and the Council of Regents convened to discuss impeaching him, they struggled to reach a consensus, despite proposing potential replacements. Later, Ishido takes a forceful approach, holding the regents and their families captive in the castle under the pretext of a threat to the heir. He then pushes for a vote to appoint Lord Ito as the 5th regent, but Sugiyama opposes this, asserting that there is no genuine danger to the heir and confronts Ishido, accusing him of dishonoring the Taiko's legacy by urging him to release the hostages. This, of course, incurred Ishido's wrath, who confronted Sugiyama in the woods while he was trying to flee. He then murdered Sugiyama's entire family to set an example for the other regents, and blamed this incident on bandits in an attempt to conceal his action. Lord Ito. Lord Ito was a huge ally of the late Taiko and a famous kabuki play actor in the Shogun series. He was approached by Lady Ochiba and Lord Ishido to replace Toranaga's seat as the regent and vote for his impeachment. Although he had the heir's best interest in mind, Ito was nothing more than a puppet in Ishido's hands, solely present in the council to support his decisions till the very end. Lord Saeki Nobutatsu. Saeki is Toranaga's half-brother, who was supposed to help Toranaga out in his war against Ishido. Saeki was surely bold, but was definitely not loyal, given that he easily sold Toranaga out in exchange for a seat at the council to replace Lord Sugiyama. Although he arrived with his army to Ajiro at Lord Toranaga's request, and enjoyed the hospitality his brother had to offer, Saeki, during his dinner with Toranaga and his retainers, shared stories about Toranaga's past battles and experiences as a hostage, in order to humiliate him. He then went on to express his desire to become the Lord of Izu, and revealed that he had received another offer from Ishido. Saeki coerced Toranaga into surrendering to the council, while his army blocked all roads out of Izu. He then informed Nagakado about the council's order for him to commit seppuku for Jozen's murder. Later, when Toranaga informed Saeki of his decision to go to Osaka and face the Council of Regents, Saeki assured to accompany him to Osaka the following day. That same night, while Saeki spent time with Lady Kiku, Toranaga's son Nagakado tried to ambush him by killing one of his guards in the process. Nagakado almost had Saeki until he slipped and hit his head on a rock, fatally meeting his end. This gave Toranaga 49 days to mourn his son, and the time gap to secure his plans in order to sway the council in his favor. Although Saeki acted as Ishido's puppet after his ascension as regent, he still could not have gone very far after Toranaga's victory in Sekigahara. And these are Shogun's most important characters who were at the very center of the power play between Ishido and Toranaga. Even though most of them never got to see the screen time they deserved, they still had a major impact on the show's premise. What did you guys think of the regent's power in Shogun? Let us know in the comment box below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.
Isolated by his rivals on the Council of Regents,